Is it a seller's market or is it a buyer's market? That is the question that Darryl Van Sickle is going to answer for us today on Homes Made Simple. Darryl, excited to have this chat with you because I think a lot of people who are wanting to buy or sell, they want to know like what kind of market are we actually in. So can we start with that definitions just so people really understand what that means, buyer's market versus sellers? And we'll start with the seller's market. What does that really mean?
A seller's market generally refers to the amount of inventory and the time it would take to turn that over as far as those houses would no longer be. If nothing new came on, how long before the market is completely depleted? Um,
And then on the other side, the flip side of that is the buyer's market.
yes, yes. So typically you're looking at for low inventory, high demand, high inventory, low demand, right? To make it simple. We've been in a seller's market for a long time now. That's been changing a little bit, but overall, I would still say that we're in a seller's market historically.
So, okay, so going back a little bit in time, we've determined we're in a seller's market right now, and we're in a seller's market. But how long have we historically kind of been in that type of market?
Ooh,
Years, like months or years?
years in the Brantford area, we've been in a solid seller's market since 2016. That was when we really noticed a big change in the market, when it really all of a sudden the inventory dropped right off and houses were just flying.
And so, what does that mean in terms of, again, someone who wants to sell their home? Is there like a different strategy when it's one market versus another? What are the implications for someone who wants to sell their home?
Time.
Time.
Time is the biggest difference. If you are in a buyer's market, it's going to take time. There's a lot of opportunities. They know there's not a lot of rush to go and buy a house, and the competition is going to be steep, and there's going to be people trying to price you out.
It's interesting because when I asked that question, I thought your answer would be different. I actually thought you'd say money.
Uh, well, money's always the factor. It doesn't matter how hot the market is. If you price it too high, it's not going anywhere. It's just not going to move. January and February, hottest market I've ever seen by a factor that's not even imaginable. When you talk about a market in Brantford where you have 400 or 500 houses on average for sale, and you have 10, right? Like, but if you price your house wrong, there are still people not selling their house because
Right.
their price was wrong.
Yeah. So you have this chart that I'd love for us to show on the screen and then kind of walk us through what we're seeing on the chart. So I'm going to bring it up. Okay, and just let me. There we go. So what are we? So what are we looking at here, and how do you use this data in your business?
So this is the average selling price in Brantford from 2018 to now. The very, very last line is deceiving because we're mid-month, so it's not a true reflection of what the entire month's going to be. But you can get the idea of up until COVID, the prices were they were steadily increasing, and at the time, those prices were considered high, very high.
You mean when
And
you say
now,
at that time, you mean that the part where it's from like 2018 to just before COVID, that was still
yes,
a good time.
oh
That was
yeah,
still a
that
seller's market.
yes, things were flying along at that time. Houses are moving very, very quickly, and those prices were considered high. And then when COVID came, the interest rates basically went to zero, and things just accelerated from there. Low interest rates make for expensive houses.
And the reverse is true.
Yes,
When interest rates rise, then home prices go down, which is what we're starting to see as well.
yes,
Yeah. I love I personally get a lot of I get a lot from looking at a graph like this because now we can see what historically has happened. And so people who are, let's say, watching this, if you're listening to to an audio, then you won't be able to see this, but jump back in and check this chart out because you might be able to look at your own situation and go, oh, that's the period in which I sold my house. I was in that era, that I sold my house in 2019. Oh, I see now what was going on in relativity to other things. I think that's the thing that's so interesting about this. It's all relative.
yes. If you're looking at prices that were even 2020, at no point in 2020 were houses selling for the prices we're selling right now. And right now the market's considered to be slowing, but it's still significantly up. That's about $50,000 average from anything that happened in 2020. And you can see in the chart where before 2020, it's almost 100,000 up from there in 2019.
Darryl, do you think it's because people only really remember the last 6 months to a year of their lives? Like we don't typically think back to 4 years ago and what things were like. We have short-term memory, I think.
Yeah, you kind of get absorbed in what's happening right now, and I'm guilty of it myself. I will talk to clients who helped buy houses 5, 6, 7 years ago, and I catch myself going, "We bought your house for what? We bought your house for three? I can't buy anything for three right now." So yeah, everyone's guilty of it to a point, but it's good to step back and just remember, okay, this is where things were, and this is where things are now.
Yeah. So even looking at this, we can see that although as you made a point that, this month is still not finished. So let's take that with a grain of salt. But what we're seeing in general here is that the market is still, it's all everything that we're looking at in green here on the screen is a seller's market. But where we're at now compared to where we were in that period of 2018 to 20, it's still above where prices were at then. And even back then it was good.
Yes. Yeah, back then the price of everything was great. 2019, I think I said it before, still probably my favorite year for doing real estate. You could buy, you could sell. It was more seller, but still balanced enough where everyone was kind of happy. The last couple of years have been pretty tough, where if you were a buyer, it was very hard. But if you'd purchased an investment property, anything prior to 2020, you're looking great. You're looking really, really good. If you had bought it in say 2021, uh, it's getting a little tight.
Yeah. What kind of challenges have you and your wife Jessica faced, in relation to this seller's market over the last many, many years as we're looking at here? What kind of challenges does it pose for you as a real estate professional to be able to help guide people through their selling and buying purchases or sales?
On the buying side, it's not as bad in the last couple of years because everyone's more aware of just that their bidding wars are happening quite a bit. But you would kind of have to go out and go after a couple of properties and see that the competition was that stiff, and then see how much over asking properties were generally going for. Once you've done a couple of properties, you'd find people would either say, okay, like I really don't like this, and they would stop looking. Or other ones, okay, I understand. We need to look at this range, and this is kind of where we have to go as far as a bidding strategy to go in, and then it was fine. Um, that was the biggest challenge. On the selling side, it was quite easy, I guess, as far as you could do nothing and basically sell it. But still, with our clients, it was, let's just get the best by making it look the best. If everyone else's houses are they're losing, don't look as good as yours. When they see yours, they're going to want to bid more. And that was the biggest thing, was just preparation. A lot of our clients were selling and then buying, so it would take some comfort in knowing that you would really have to go and buy a house first. Basically everything was cash or unconditional, and then sell your house. So there was that little bit of time where you would technically have an unsold house and a firm deal. um, for our clients, we help
Which can
minimize
be
that.
that's a little nerve-wracking though. That can be a little nerve-wracking.
Yes, yes. It's very nerve wracking. We've done it ourselves on our own property, but unfortunately, that was just the way things were. But we would minimize that by the preparation, right? So before we even went out and really started putting offers on a property, their house would be ready, staged, pictures, everything done. So that time between buying and selling was very small, a couple of days.
Yeah. So in conclusion to this topic around it being a seller's market right now, we've looked at how that historically has been the case now for many, many years, although, prices are still, higher than they were a few years ago. What do you want to leave the audience with in terms of what they need to know because it is a seller's market, especially for people who are, again, going to be looking to sell their houses? What advice do you have to people who are looking to sell, maybe, in the near future, um, considering the market that we're in?
We need to look at what the market is right now, not what it was. We need to look at what the competition is and where we think things are actually going to be selling for. What happened is over, and we can't go back. That would be my biggest advice.
Yeah, I love that. So, for those of you who are listening, watching, be sure to follow the show Homes Made Simple, Real Estate Made Simple with Darryl Van Sickle, because we have lots more like content like this coming your way. So be sure to follow the show. Share this with someone. If you know someone who is looking to buy or sell in the Brantford area or surrounding areas, they might want to partake in listening to some of these episodes, because there's a lot of value that Darryl's packing into it. So Darryl, thanks so much for sharing your insights on the seller's market, and I'll look forward to chatting with you again on the next episode.
That was great talking to you again.